Hi, I'm CJ Sorensen, and I've started a new program called CJ's Chatbox. The reason being, I would like to know some of the people here in the village at a deeper, more personal level. Many of the people here have got such interesting lives and experiences to share, and I think they should be shared with the people here that live in the village. So, welcome. Maybe you're one of those people. If so, give me a call. Maybe you'll be my next guest on CJ's Chatbox. Welcome to CJ's Chatbox. Today I'm going to be talking with Dwight White, otherwise known as Rabbi Blue, here in the village.
Yeah.
He has performed for us at Clubhouse 19. We're sitting here outside of Clubhouse 2. It's a beautiful day. It's quite warm, and we can see the snow-capped mountains, which is beautiful. But I wanted to get to know Blue a little bit differently. We know what a wonderful musician he is, but I wanted to know when that started. So I'm going to talk to him today about where did it start? Where were you born?
I was born in Arizona, a little town called Randolph, between Phoenix and Tucson. Raised up in the cotton field days, picked cotton, hauled water from the dams into the community. And at the age of 12, I wasn't a musician. Of course, kids back then, we rolled tires in the desert. We ran after lizards and snakes. That was the kind of thing that we did back then. But I didn't know that this music, all this stuff was inside of me until I was at school one day and saw a teacher at the age of 12 play eight chords on the guitar. And at that moment, I had a photographic memory, so I picked up one of his guitars and figured out everything that he did, and emulated it, and he just was mesmerized by it.
Wonderful. I want to go back a little bit to I remember when you told me about picking cotton, and I said, in the desert? And that's when, I said, what did they do for irrigation? And then you told me, well, we had to take trucks.
Yeah, they'd take multiple trucks to the dam, and we would go there, and they would put the water in the big tanks or the big
barrels,
columns,
yeah.
and they would put like 6 on the truck, because
they had to be heavy.
They would be heavy. Then they would take about.
Well, you come from a fairly large family.
Yeah, we have 12 tribes of Israel, but
12 tribes of
it was
Israel.
8 boys and 4 girls.
Well, that works.
Well, hey.
Yeah, the part that I was the oldest of 6 in the younger ones, but the beauty of having large families, first of all, in those days they were producers and not consumers. But that you have always somebody to play with.
Yeah, I had a lot of aunties and uncles and cousins and friends.
Now, did your whole family kind of congregate in this area so that you had uncles and aunts and so on that lived there as well?
Well, there, but also they lived out in farms. So there was farms area, on the outskirts there, and so but the town that I lived in, the little community, was a center place where all came to congregate.
And that was a really big town, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It almost looked like this. This is like right here, right behind us, the clubhouse. Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you chop that up in about 10 slices there, and that's what the community looked like.
Well, I remember you said it had one street light, right?
One street light.
So hopefully the moon was out.
And that's how you identified coming down a dark road, your community. You're driving and there's Randolph because it has one street light. So there's 3 ways to get in.
Yeah.
Only three roads, and they're all dirt.
The other thing that I was kind of, the exposure that you had to the other people that were picking cotton or in the area were Hispanics and Navajos, so the music they played.
Yes. For some reason as a kid, that music, the mariachi stuff, and the Navajo chants, the powwows, those chants always spoke to my heart I didn't quite understand why it brought such an interest in me. But now I know why.
Yeah.
I know now that I'm older, you know, why, because a lot of that is so inclusive to a lot of the praises of the hymns to the Most High. So, and so by me being young like that and not understanding it, just gravitating toward it, and then when I started to growing up and learning instruments, I started, you know, incorporating that kind of spirit because it was in me to do. And so, like I said, when I didn't know I had that ability to play those guitar like that until that thing was activated in me by what I saw.
What you saw and heard.
Yeah.
The other thing that we talked a bit about was the fact that when you come from, you know, poor situations, which I did, I was raised
very poor.
Yeah. I was raised on a farm in southwestern Minnesota, and my father was a sharecropper. So you made do with whatever you had. And so by doing that, I didn't think of it, when you're a kid, you don't think of much of anything. But I realized later that the creativity and the imagination that is formed, because you have to imagine that orange crate sitting in my playhouse outside was literally a red velvet sofa.
Right.
So therefore you can pretend that.
Right.
And I love creative writing and poetry, and you wrote songs based upon some of that. Let's pretend, let's get creative and imaginative, so that all those things eventually came out of us, and they've been, thank God that they were created like that, but out of necessity.
Right.
Out of necessity.
Right.
So then you, when you moved to San Bernardino, right? You were like still 12, so you were in elementary?
Yes. Middle school.
Middle school. And that's when you first found the guitar and found out you can do something.
Right.
Okay. And that led to, didn't you say that you went
middle school, sixth grade is 7.
Okay.
7, back in that time. Now middle school is now 6th grade. This time. But yeah, back then. So that's where in Arizona I didn't pick it up in Arizona. I actually picked it up in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
But in Arizona, like I said, all those hymns I was mesmerized by it. But then when I picked up the guitar at the age of 12 in San Bernardino, that's where it all started. All that stuff, the imagination of creativity started coming. That was in me. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Sometimes we need to be tapped for the things that are within us.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned, your father was a pastor at church there, and that there was a lot of gospel songs, but there was not any country songs. You said
no country songs. They were all on the other side of the railroad track.
Yeah, you weren't exposed to that, but you were exposed to, of course, the powwow, as you said.
Yeah, you got to remember the community there was a road or a train track, and all the powwows, or the natives, Navajos and the Mexicans and the blacks were on one side, and on the other side were all, the controlling, or the Caucasians were on the other side. Yeah. And that's the way life was.
Right.
And I don't know if you even remember when paydays were 2.5 cents. You remember that? Payday candy bars?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's right.
I remember when there was
a penny was a
1 cent stamp. You could send it anywhere. Yes, postal service was different.
Oh, gosh.
We had the rural.
Being a kid.
Well, we just don't know that. We don't know how awful it is. Because it's all we know.
That's right.
And sometimes that's we were talking also about the fact that we watched the radio because we didn't have televisions.
Right.
And then my first boyfriend I dated in high school was 9th grade, and he'd never been to my house. He bought me a TV lamp, and we didn't have a TV. So my dad felt so bad. He went and got a TV. So we didn't have a TV till like 1957.
No.
And you said the same thing. That was about when you got a TV.
58, maybe a little bit earlier.
And see, we didn't. we weren't exposed to another life that was showing us on television, so we knew that everybody we were neighbors with had the same life we did.
And what my aunties, so we went back, and our manager pursued to call him, and the office, and he was never there. Of course, he was busy on the road, because I learned later by working with him, he was always on the road. And so he would come into town for television shows or stuff like that, or and so my managers got discouraged, and everybody else did, but I didn't, because I was a writer. I was a musician. I was really, out of all the 8 guys in the band, I was really the musician, because the other ones were just doing it for girls, or they were doing it for pleasures. Beach Boys, whatever you want to call it. Motown stuff, the girls, my girls, that's what they want, But me, I was doing it for the love of the music, just getting high on the music, not drugs, alcohol, women, just high on that was just in me that way. And so my manager got discouraged, the guys got discouraged, but I didn't. So I pursued it to catch the RTD bus up to LA. I would do it like probably once a week, or maybe sometimes once every 2 weeks. And I would go and just walk around with my folder of music, walk around just to see what was there. Because, internet, you had nothing like that. You had a telephone book, but, and so I had to really go and see for myself. And of course, you saw images on TV. But so I did a lot of legwork, going there and opening doors, knocking on doors. Didn't know who was. They didn't know who I was, but trying to present myself. And I kept on doing it. And I finally, one day, I got I got the number from the manager, and I started calling myself, and no success. So one day I had a meeting with a publisher in one of the floors of the buildings where Lou's office was, and I went there and successfully played the piano and played my songs. He said, "Oh, we like those. Yeah, they're really good songs." So we're going to set up something for you, and to come back, and record them or whatever, you know what I mean, and try to get them out to different artists that maybe they would consider recording them. And like I said, something just said, and I just know it's the Most High. Yeah. He said, "Blue, go up to Lou's office."
Good. Got to listen to those voices.
And I went up to that office, and I opened the door, and I heard him talking inside. So now you know that if you've been trying to call numerous times, and he could be in the office and they could say he wasn't there, right?
Right.
So my mind said, go outside the door, close it real soft so they don't hear you, and wait outside. 5 minutes later, here he comes out the door. And he saw me, got startled.
Oh, yeah.
I said, "Mr. Rawls?" I said, "Yeah, my name is Blue." And he says, I met you at least 2.5, maybe 3 years ago in the parking lot with a whole bunch of guys. And we had an audition, but I'm a writer, and I write music and stuff like that. And he says, "Well, I'm on my way. I have an occasion right now, but I'm on my way. Can you come back tomorrow? I'll meet you here at 2. I said, "Yeah, I could come back tomorrow." So I kept the RTD bus back to San Bernardino, probably about a good 3-hour ride to get to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it stopped at every location there, going there. Anyway, I said, "Yes, I'll meet you." So I went back home, and I told my mother that I met him, I saw him, and I said, "I have a meeting with him at 2:00 tomorrow." And she says, "Okay, well, we're gonna go and go get your brother's car, and we're gonna go. And so she drove me there. We were there at 12.
Match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours. There wasn't gonna be anything to stop this, right?
Right.
So we got there at 12, and then 2 o'clock I went up to the office, went in, and I told him I had a meeting with Lou at 2 o'clock, and the receptionist says, okay, well, we'll try to contact him. She says he'll be here. So 2 o'clock rolled around, he didn't come. 3 o'clock rolled around, he didn't come. 4 o'clock rolled around, he didn't show up, and all of a sudden the manager came out and said, what do you and Lou have going? Right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, what do you and Lou have going? I said, well, I'm a writer, and I met him yesterday. I saw him in the office here. I mean, as he came out, he told me to meet him there. So he says, well, I'm going to try to get a hold of him, call him. And he tried to call him, couldn't reach him. And this was, remember, this started on the Monday, so I came back on a Tuesday, right? Now, the manager says, well, can you come back tomorrow to Sherman Oaks? They're having a rehearsal out there, and you can see him there. And now the manager don't know me for whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's all from the Most High, doing these connections, you know.
Yeah.
So he gave me the address, and I went down and told my mom. I said, Mom, Lou wasn't there, but his manager told me to come back tomorrow to Sherman Oaks, and he gave me the address. So we go home, and I come the next day. We're there like 2 hours ahead of time again. Make sure no complications. And so I knock on the lawyer's door, and I see these musicians going in with drums and guitars and piano player, and so I go in and I see his conductor named Reginald Powell, and he says, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to meet Lou here because I have some songs for him," and I played the songs for the conductor, you know, the music. He says, "Oh," he was just like, "Okay." So usually a conductor, when you have, usually it's almost like in the music industry, it's pretty strange because people feel like they have a cutthroat scenario.
Oh.
You know, a cutthroat scenario. If you introduce someone that's good or maybe better than you, they can end up taking your spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, I had not any of that in my heart.
Right.
But them that had been around a long time, and I'm just coming into the fold like that.
Haven't paid your dues.
Haven't paid my dues. Right. And they're cautious of that. So the lawyer comes in, and they couldn't find a bass player. And so the lawyer comes in and says, "Hey, who are you?" And I said, and he says, "Well, what else do you do?" I say, "Well, I play upright bass and electric bass." He says, "Well, hell, that's what we need right now." Those very words.
Oh, my stars.
He says, "Hell, that's what we need right now." He says, "Where's your stuff?" I said, "Well, it's in San Bernardino. That's where I came from." Well, he says, "Can you go get it and come back tomorrow?"
Oh.
Wait, and then he says, "Can you read music?" So I pulled out the charts and I read them, and they gave me his volume of books, of music books like this thick, right, to take home. Now, who would do that to a person they don't even know?
Exactly.
Right, and if something happened, they don't have any copies for a new guy to come in.
Yeah.
The arranger probably be, kind of write everything out. So I went home and went through the books, songs I had never heard before. You know what I mean? But I was an excellent reader. And so I came back the next day, and we started playing. And they kind of felt I didn't bring my upright, but I brought my electric. And because the upright is so big, you need.
Yes.
So I started playing and reading, having that good feel, swinging.
Yeah.
I was playing those notes like wow, this guy's got a natural feel,
Yes.
a natural thing.
Yep.
You know, it's like I didn't have to go to do any woodshedding to get that natural feel,
Yeah.
right? But I needed to do the woodshedding so I could understand how the greats that, you know, mean the woodshedding when I started traveling with doing all the great jazz festivals and being among them and jamming in New York and the undergrounds and places like that with the musicians, Cannonball Alley and those guys, I really felt, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I really needed to do that.
Right.
I really needed to do that. And that was kind of my Juilliard education
Yes.
on the road,
There you got it. There you got it.
roundabout way,
Yeah.
you know. And so they were impressed. So that happened on a Thursday, right? The rehearsal, and the very next day, Friday, I was on my way to Hawaii as the bassist for Lou Rawls.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, on my way.
To me, what really impresses me when you tell me that story is your perseverance.
Yeah.
The fact that you had this passion for music and you did all the you did all the work behind it, learning the theory and so on, and that you had that natural gift of feeling the music that you can't train anybody for.
Right.
And for them to just, 4 days in a row from San Bernardino to LA and then San Bernardino to Sherman Oaks and then hop on a plane and go to Hawaii. And you said that was your first experience on a beach.
First, not only on a beach, first experience on an airplane, and it was a 747. The thing looked like the 2 clubhouses here, you know. And I'm walking out and say, "What this thing?" So it gets to moving real slow, and I'm looking out the window.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
and you know, and then finally we get up. I'm like, "Wow, man, my first experience." And they went and bought me, you know, because then when they decided that I was going to be the bassist, they had to go down to Local 47, get me registered, and then they had to get me a tuxedo. So they rented a tuxedo, and I looked like Groucho Marx, you know, his brother, you know, with the big
Chico
I
Marx.
used to wear the big clothes.
But you could play the bass. That's what mattered. You could play the
Well,
bass.
they made me look older than what I
Well,
than I
true.
was. So.
Because you were only, 19 at that
19,
time?
yeah.
Wow, but what an experience. So you played there a couple weeks and then did you stay with Rawls, right?
Yeah, we played there. We did a lot of the, it's kind of been a long time now. We did a lot of the islands there. Military, I think it was mainly military that he went there for. And we did a couple of weeks. And then after that, I think we went to Alaska. I'll send you that link where we did a Alaska show.
Yeah.
Where they mentioned my name again in that. But then we opened up at the Central Plaza Hotel. Now, when we opened up the Central Plaza Hotel, all of San Bernardino.
I can imagine.
Yeah, all of
that
San
had
Bernardino,
to be.
right?
All the relatives, all the
it's
friends.
almost like the guy that worked with Sweet Caroline. What's his name?
Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond. His pianist or music instructor was from San Bernardino too. So it was 2 of us that had some notoriety. From that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but yes, all of San Bernardino and my school teachers and the musical teachers and all of them that knew that
How
I had
wonderful.
this, they just bombarded the Central Plaza Hotel because I was there.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know?
how wonderful. Such a reward for all that hard work.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing is you said you went for like 7 years, you traveled with
7
him.
years, yeah.
And then who are some of the greats that you
Oh,
got to
gosh.
play with?
Cannonball Adderley, Art Blakely, Ella Fitzgerald, Sir Vaughan. Oh gosh, Freddie Hubbard,
Dizzy
Gillespie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did all the jazz festivals. Those guys was there, and I was the young kid amongst all these legends. Amongst all these legends, and.
But you didn't feel intimidated.
No, I didn't feel intimidated, but when I went and jammed, when they had like jam sessions after we did, the clubs or we did the festivals, they would have little spots where they all get together and jam. Oh man, it was wonderful. So I was a very good observer. You know what I mean when I said I had that photographic memory? So if you see a person like Ron Carter or somebody playing, you observe it and you really look at the technique and what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so how they improvise, because when you're young, you're like you play instrument like Speedy Gonzalez. He's a bass player. He knows when he learned. When you're young, those fingers want to go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
And that's wonderful to if they move that way. But you got to make sure you stay in the realm of your improvisation, that it makes sense, because a lot of it's not going to make sense to the greats, right? Because you're coming from a new generation into an old generation that's so standardized that it's like that's what they're accustomed to.
Right.
But that's what I liked about Quincy Jones. He always brought newness from different sounds, from different eras, to make his music be.
Yeah, you got to think.
He set a trend.
Yeah, you have to think outside the box in order to make it fresh and new.
Right.
You also mentioned one time that you'd played a few juke joints, as you said, and you said, "Did you ever see Color Purple?" And I said, "Yeah." So now you know what a juke joint is.
Well,
that they would really. Is that called Is that more of your jamming sessions then, that you'd go into some?
Well, the juke joints. There were juke joints when I started working with Lou, because outside of the main festival things. But the juke joints that I'm mentioning when I say Color Purple is that when my mom realized that I had this talent, so she would take me at the age of 12 and 13. She would take me to the juke joints in like Riverside or up in Victorville, wherever there may be, down in Beaumont or somewhere, where they all get together. And the local players that were, that had those feels, they had that feel, and they were singing the blues and living the blues.
Wow.
She would take me there so I could. Now this is what happened. It was when I played that guitar, and I picked that guitar. I picked it really well, right? But my mom, she said something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. She said, "Blue, you're playing that guitar right now. But wait until you really have experienced the blues, and then you will really know what that blues is all about inside of you."
Coming from your heart, you feel the blues.
Yes. She said, then you'll really know, and the people, they might be excited about your technical portion, but when that feel comes, when that feel comes from that, then you'll know, and they'll know, and they're going to really sit there and really be attentive, because they can feel the passion coming out of your guitar, out of your playing.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing. We've talked about that in the group I play with too, is that if you don't have your heart and your soul into the songs you're playing, it doesn't matter how well you play them, but if oh yeah, we'd be in a juke joint now. Thank you so much, Blue. We've seen your heart and soul with that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah, we'd be in a juke joint now.